House, I have to say, has said today that he would like to condition aid to California.
Yes.
Condition aid to California.
Of course.
You are okay with conditioning aid.
I said
to
it. I said it the night that this started. I said on your show, there ought to be conditions on aid because
so the
obviously
next time Florida or Louisiana is dealing with a
that's why I
hurricane,
mentioned Katrina.
You want that aid to be conditional upon Washington dictating policy decisions in those states?
I want it to be conditional on knowing whether or not the state of California, in this case, is going to enact local policy decisions on forest management, on water resources management,
well, let me ask
so
you,
that it doesn't happen again.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
Let me ask that. Okay. If the Democratic-controlled House decided, you know what, in Florida, they really should not be building those houses on the water. Climate change is happening. That aid that we give you is going to be conditional upon you preventing the building of anything along in all those areas that are prone to hurricanes. You would be okay with that?
If you could pass that through the United States Congress, more power to you.
I'm just asking.
Hold on. I'm the lawyer here. We have rules like that all the time. You have to build Coney Island in Brooklyn. If you're going to build something, it's got to be built in a certain way. So you're going to get the money. It's got to be built. So it's
Arthur, thank you. So Arthur is pointing out that is very much something that Congress could do. Would you be okay with that?
I am not for a blank check to a state that has clearly failed and doesn't know how to manage fires. I would like to see a partnership between the state and Washington so that whatever money is being spent. Look, I don't live in California.
So now we're talking about a partnership.
But if you want us to send you billions upon billions of dollars, we need to have some assurances that you're not going to flush it the way you maybe have flushed it previously.
I don't think Americans are making this connection. And the way we can see this in right here and now, take a look at the monthly change in Google searches. Look at the searches for wildfire, up 2,400%. My goodness gracious. This is the most amount of people searching for wildfires ever, going back since Google Trends began back in 2004. But look at climate change. Look at the change. It doesn't go hand in hand with wildfires. It's actually down. It's down 9%. And I also looked in California. There has been no increase in the number of searches for climate change. So the bottom line is this. Americans are definitely interested in learning about these wildfires. They're interested in following the news about the wildfires, but they are not making that connection with climate change. That's the bottom line here.
That's a really key metric you're looking at there, the connection. Overall, Americans being worried about climate change. What have we seen over time?
Yeah, we have seen a lot of extreme weather events over the last few decades, right? Hurricanes, heat waves, wildfires. You might expect that Americans worry about climate change with climate change worry a lot. You go back to 1991, it was 35%. Now, it was a little bit higher in 2007, a little bit higher in 2022. But look at this. In 2023, the last time we have data, 39%. That is not statistically significantly different from this 35% back in 1991. So despite all these extreme weather events, Americans are really no more worried about climate change than they were, what is that, now nearly 35 years ago?
I think we need to talk about climate change and how much of it is a fraud, really. Right? So in this channel, you guys know my position about climate change. I believe that it's merely used as an excuse, used as a way to justify more government control, more influence over your day-to-day decisions from governments around the world, right? For draconian rule. That's what climate change is used because, it's for the greater good. So they can play into this narrative, right? It's the same way that people used to accuse Republicans when they wanted to go into war, right? We need to protect democracy. We need to liberate people around the world. We have to go to war. Climate change is nothing more than reasons used to justify certain political actions, right? And as you saw from the intro, you saw the CNN analysts. They're shocked. Extreme weather events. Why are you not calling it climate change anymore? Interesting. Because I forget where. It was during the political season. I did a video on it that the left wanted to change their language on this stuff because people don't believe in climate change anymore. Or at least the sentiment around it is decreasing because of the fact that people are realizing that climate change is anti-human. And as you saw with the forest fires in California, the fact that they didn't want to remove dead trees, right, which is a threat to which endangered human lives, but they put that in the back burner because, we have to leave the climate in its natural state. And I already said it numerous times on this channel. Nature in its natural state is a threat to humans' prosperity, human survival. Yes, for human prosperity, Humans have to manipulate the environment around them. That's just a given when it comes to our species. So if you're telling us not to manage or manipulate the environment around us, you're inherently making a less safe environment for humans' lives. And I think this is why many people are not liking climate change. Here's I've been showing this guy stuff a lot, but I like this comment, this post that he put here. And this goes against why I'm so against climate change in the first place. What's repulsive about climate change movement is that so many of us, its branding is fearful, negative, and disempowering. Radical climate activists keep telling us how we need to do less, have fewer kids, use less energy. In this internet age, good luck with that. Stop eating meat. Stop killing the planet. Humans are cancer. Ruin art for attention, right? It feels anti-human. It is anti-human. That's my opinion. It feels weak, like the sky is falling and we need to be scared. Then when disaster happens, politicians point at climate change so we don't point at them. Exactly. I said this numerous times throughout all my videos, all my coverage of the wildfires, that climate change is being used as a shield from criticism. They're trying to pretend that they couldn't do anything about it. Baloney. This was preventable. A wildfire is not the same natural disaster as a hurricane. They want to talk about, we've been experiencing extreme weather events. Every hurricane we have recently in modern history has not hit category 4 or 5, if I remember correctly. Milton hit category 4, but it was already down to category 3 before it hit Tampa. So make it make sense. It doesn't even equate to the hardest hitting hurricanes that ever hit Florida, which was Hurricane Andrew in the 90s. But we experienced extreme weather events. Oh, okay. But Florida's have never got hit with a hurricane as equal to or as worse as Hurricane Andrew. We had some close ones. Katrina, that was a close one, but it still wasn't Andrew level, Hurricane Andrew level, category 5 level. But they want to pretend that, oh my God, we just get hit with extreme weather events. The truth of climate change is undermined by the fear around it. Many of the same scared zealots who tell us to be afraid of climate change also get in the way of nuclear energy, which is a cleaner way of getting energy, and it's still cheap. Because the reason why we still use gas is that gas is more cost effective for the energy that we use. And if you look at the amount of energy that we're using now in this internet age, solar cannot meet the demand. Nuclear can, gas can, both of them cheap, they're more cost effective. But to meet the same energy demand for solar and wind, it'll be way more expensive. That's why it takes trillions and trillions of dollars for us to move our infrastructure to solar. So if you're thinking if you're thinking about efficiency, what's the most efficient option to get what we want? We want to move away from gas, but we also want to meet our energy demand. The only answer you can come to is nuclear. But for some reason, they don't like nuclear because they want you to do it their way, solar and wind. Make it make sense. Which one is the best solution, but crippled by fearful regulation? China understands this. That's why they shamelessly use fossil fuels now, but aggressively invest in nuclear for the future. Technology and growth will save us, not restrictions and contraction. Regulators won't save us, creators will. Because end of the day, and I'm going to leave it there, humans are adaptable. Humans live based on adaptation. We adapt to our environment. Our environment's hot. Okay, let's make AC. This is the funny part. It's adapt or die. That's always been the law of survival. That's in our nature. So who cares if climate change? We will adapt, because the only thing I'm concerned about is climate danger. How dangerous is the climate is to human survival? That's the only thing I care about. And climate change is opposite to what I said in this video. The great mistakes is to judge policies and programs by their intentions rather than their results. We saw the results. Look at California. We've seen the results, right? And I'm gonna show you a video. I'm gonna react to a 3-minute video of a California CEO, a California billionaire, just destroying this excuse that a lot of these California Democrats are running to. But before he gets to it, I want to show you a guy highlighting how climate change is a fraud, and I agree 100% with everything he stated in this clip. Let's take a look.
I don't have opinions. I have demonstrable facts. These facts are validated and these facts are repeatable. Fact number one, no one has ever shown that human emissions of carbon dioxide drive global warming. Never been shown. And if it could be shown, then you would have to show that the 97% of emissions, which are natural, do not drive global warming. Game over. We are dealing with a fraud. It's a scientific fraud from day one. We hear the propaganda that increases of the gas of life, a trace gas in the atmosphere, will bring a disaster and that we will have runaway global warming. Sorry, folks, we've known for 200 years from chemistry that it's the exact inverse. Now, I'm sure some of you tried this last night at the dinner with a champagne or a beer and you forgot to drink it and it warmed up and it kept bubbling and bubbling and bubbling and bubbling. And that is the inverse solubility of carbon dioxide. We've known that for 200 years. We see it from the ice cores. When we drill into ice, we have chemical fingerprints that tell us what the temperature was, and we have little bits of trapped air. And we can show that when we had natural warming, some 650 to 6,000 years later, we had an increase in carbon dioxide. It's not carbon dioxide that drives temperature. It's the exact inverse. Another fraud.
I don't want to talk too much. I just want to get into it. But you seen these facts, these inconvenient truths for the climate change activists? And I remember there was a video of an Australian climate debate. And this guy, he made the same argument to a climate change activist. And he was like, oh, those are not true. And the guy pulled out, he said, these are the facts. Here, read them. The climate activist ripped up the facts and threw it. And the guy was like, he just showed you that he don't care about the facts. He just care about you doing what he wants you to do. Stop drilling oil, even though there's no correlation between oil production and global warming. And the CNN analyst that you saw in the intro of this video was like, oh, people are not making that connection with climate change and wildfires because people are like, no, because climate change didn't cause the reservoirs to be empty. Climate change didn't cause the malfunction with the fire hydrants. It was the lack of inspection from the California Democrats to make sure their equipment is available, good. They've been expecting the fire hydrants. They didn't. And then it failed on them at a critical time because they didn't know if it was ready or not. These policies they do that they don't want to mess or manipulate the forestry, so that way if a fire does happen, it's contained and controlled, and it'll be easier to react to. They didn't do none of that. They wasn't prepared for none of that. And what they got for show for it? Burn down cities, burn down towns, but the politician can go out with their hand out and asking for more federal dollars, and then they want to get mad that Republicans want to put some stipulations behind that money. Because you're costing money, California, with these wildfires. And this billionaire is going to bring up an example of how a similar situation happened 6 years ago, and Democrats still wasn't prepared for it now in 2025. Make it make sense. Why should we reward somebody that the same thing happened? You can make a mistake, but you can't make a mistake twice.
I'm not very sympathetic to there were 100-mile-an-hour winds. Not because it's not true, but there's been enough modeling that we know that these kinds of outlier weather events are happening in greater and greater frequency. Remember that crazy apocalyptic video of that exact same part of Southern California in 2018 burning to the ground? Because that was 6 years ago. This is not like it was a distant memory from 100 years ago. We knew in 2018 that these types of...
the Sepulveda pass.
So yeah. This idea that we were just lollygagging around and got caught off guard by 100-mile-an-hour winds, to me, is completely not an acceptable answer. We knew in 2018 that these things could happen. We knew across the rest of the United States that these outlier weather events were happening in greater and greater frequency. If you weren't sure, you saw most of the insurance companies try to dump Southern California homes' fire coverage 3 months before this event happened.
And did Gavin Newsom do anything to mitigate that, right? Because they probably saw it and like, oh, these people are blocking legislation that would make it less risky to put fire insurance on these homes. We should pull out our money. And this is exactly what happened. This is exactly what happened. Right? When Milton was coming, Ron DeSantis had dump trucks already prepared. So after the hurricane hit, instant recovery. They want to talk about, oh, we don't criticize Ron DeSantis, we don't criticize Greg Abbott when things go awry in their states with wildfires, snowstorms, and hurricanes. We're like, no, because the response is immediate. And when something does F up, they go, hey, let's pass the legislation immediately to address that problem so we can mitigate the damages for next time this stuff happens. But what you're seeing with California and why people are so mad at California is that this happened 6 years ago. The same conditions created the same wildfire in 2018 that it created here in 2025. And people are like, how you got caught off guard with this? We dealt with this 2018. And you didn't make no changes? Or when there was attempts to make changes, you blocked them or vetoed them? But you want to blame climate change. How cute. And this is what Democrats don't want to admit. This is what the media don't want to highlight. And this is why many people don't trust the mainstream media.
So all this data was in the realm of the knowable. And then when you double click and you get into a little bit more of the details, there's a level of incompetence bordering on criminal negligence here that we need to get to the bottom of. So I'll just give you a couple of facts. In the 1950s, the average amount of timber, so wood that was harvested in California, was around 6 billion board feet per year. In the intervening 70 years, that shrank to about 1.5 billion board feet. And so you'd say, okay, well, that's a 75% reduction. We must be making a very explicit stance on conservation. It turns out that that's not entirely true, because what it left behind was nearly 163 million dead trees. Dead, like gone. And so you would say, well, those things should have been removed. And the problem is that then there's this California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, and a whole bunch of these other regulatory policies that limited the ability of local governments and fire management to clear these dead trees and vegetation.
Does that put human lives more at risk or less at risk? This is what I would ask the climate changers. Would it put the human lives more at risk or less at risk, having all these dead trees around with the fire starts, right? Because if you really believe what you said you believe, right? Oh, we got extreme weather events. Shouldn't there be more scrutiny and importance on how we respond and prepare for these natural disasters, if it's a natural disaster, right? Because no one can tell me that a wildfire is equivalent to a hurricane. A hurricane, you can't really contain that. All you can do is prepare to respond to it. Prepare to limit damages to it. But a wildfire, you can, hey, let's make some spots where if a wildfire does spread, it hits these zones where it just dies out. It's like, if you want to talk about what is more preventable, wildfire is more preventable than a hurricane. And then your response could be a lot quicker with a wildfire than a hurricane. But we want to equate the two. Make it make sense. You cutting budgets from fire prevention stuff. Your $17 million budget shortcut, your cuts hurt the fire department. Then you expect that same fire department to be able to respond in a timely manner. You got faulty equipment that wasn't discovered because you cut fire prevention budgets and no one inspected the fire hydrants to make sure they were still operable. No process was done to make sure, hey, can we rely on these things when hard times hit? That's regression testing. You want to make sure that, hey, the functionality of these things still work even after 2 years, 10 years, 3 years. You want to be up to date with what's going on. This is negligence.
And I think that that's a really big deal. And when you double click on that, here's where you find the real head scratcher. Okay? Multiple bills. AB 2330, AB 1951, AB 2639, all rejected by the Democrat-controlled legislature, or worse, vetoed by Governor Newsom, that would have exempted these wildfire prevention projects from CEQA and other permitting issues. Then there were other bills to try to minimize the risk of fires by burying power lines underground. SB 1003, as an example, went nowhere, didn't even get to the governor's desk. So I'm just a little bit at a loss to explain these two bodies of data. One is everybody can see that these events are happening. Southern California lived through this exact type of moment just 6 years ago. All the bills that are meant to prevent this are blocked or vetoed. This is the ultimate expression of negligence and incompetence.
But climate change. It's amazing that our government will tell you with a straight face that they can't stop a regional fire, but if you just pay more in taxes, they can change the entire global climate. It's even more amazing that anyone believes them. And you wonder why sentiments around climate change is falling in the US. Oh, I can't believe people are not making the connection between climate change and the wildfire, because many people believe that this wildfire wouldn't even been newsworthy if the government in California was run effectively.
Claim they didn't see any response until 45 minutes after they called 911.
But that's climate change. Climate change.
It's hard to believe, Elizabeth, but I wouldn't have believed it either until I saw the video. You know, Michael Valentine, he's a former U.S. attorney for 8 years under Kamala Harris. He and his wife, they live at the top of Pacific Palisades, right next to this ridge line where the fire broke out. He says his wife called at 10:29 a.m. Tuesday morning. That's when they first saw it, and they didn't see anybody come for at least about a half an hour, 45 minutes before they dropped some water. He documented it all on video,
wow.
Giving News Nation an exclusive.
Yeah, you can't climate change your way out of this. Look at that fire. It was manageable if you were just to respond quickly because you wasn't prepared. Oh, we're not understaffed. If you had the proper staff, you would have been able to get here quick, but you couldn't. And the fire spread, and it got out of control. It got to the point of no control, point of no return. It got to a point of no return. You couldn't stop it anymore. And the winds made it exacerbated the problem. But if you only was just faster, if you was only just 40 minutes faster, maybe 30 minutes faster, I'll give you 15 minutes. If you was just 30 minutes faster, this wouldn't even be a story. I wouldn't even be able to make this video. But climate change, okay.
Exclusive look of where it started.
Climate change is becoming, the Christians will know this. Climate change for politicians is becoming what people used to say, oh, the devil made me do it. I'm going to blame it on the alcohol. I'm going to blame it on the climate change. That's what y'all doing now. Y'all should make a song about that. That's the Democratic slogan. Blame it on climate change.
How quickly it grew. By 10:50, the plume had spread considerably, twice as large. 8 minutes later, the size of the fire seems to have doubled yet again. Still nobody fighting the fire. At 11:13 a.m., nearly 45 minutes after Michael's wife called in the fire, you see a chopper come through. At 11:23, a helicopter comes in, begins to dump water on it. But at this point, the fire is massive and moving quickly down this ridgeline.
Make it make sense. But climate change got nothing but excuses. You want to see the current damage before I end off my final thoughts? Nothing could have been done to stop the catastrophic LA fires that killed 24 people, incinerated 12,000 homes, and cost $250 billion. Imagine that. Say the media. Nonsense. Says the LA firefighter. The failure by Newsom and Bass to mobilize firefighters before the fire began led to an avoidable catastrophe. You can't keep your job. Look, Californians, I'm pleading with you guys. I don't care if you elect another Democrat. I don't care. Just have all these people resign and start new. Start new. I don't care if you elect another Democrat. Just move these guys out because they don't know what they're doing. Put Rick Caruso. I don't care. I don't want these people no more, bro. They're costing the nation more money than they're worth right now. Newsom and them, and not you Americans in California. I don't care about your political affiliation. I don't care about none of that. My hearts go out to you. But I can't even imagine coming to my home, seeing it in the ground, in fire. Because something preventable, they couldn't prevent something because it took them 45 minutes to respond. And even when they tried to respond, they didn't have all the adequate equipment in place to properly mitigate the risk. I couldn't imagine that. I can't imagine that. It takes some people 30 years. Imagine investing 30 years of your life to finally have a house paid off. You're about to go into retirement and this happened. Oh no. Oh, don't get me started. This is what's driving my anger right now. I'm controlled. You know, I'm usually a calm guy, but no, this someone heads must be dropping right now. Trump can't come fast enough. 5 more days, people. 5 more days. The stipulation should be resign. All of you guys should resign. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you feel what I feel? Don't feel what I feel? I'll let you hear all your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys watching the end of the video. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.